right, as we roll into the weekend, we know things are going to be a little bit more hectic than what we usually used to, because we're living in a world of upheaval, a world where a madman is invading another country. Some new madmen may be elected into positions where we go, what is happening to the world? And all of us are a bit stressed and worried and concerned. And it reminds me of a journey. Alison spoke so beautifully about her journey of discovery. So I thought, let me share you a little bit of mine. I think one of the earliest situations that I was in that I realized being different is dangerous is when I was in the military and I couldn't be out of the closet. I was always afraid of being discovered. I was being afraid of being rejected, being ignored, being told I'm not good enough. And through my upbringing, I was told that as well, that people like me were never good enough. So yes, you start suffering from things like anxiety, fear, constantly worried about things that will happen. And the one thing I realized through all that is that looking back, living a life of fear is no life at all. And if we want to change fear or a fearful life, we need to change that to a hopeful life. And for me, leadership is about creating hope. Hope for others, hope for yourself, and a hope for a future that is better. So what I want to do today with you is just talk a little bit about how do we get there? What helps us to find the hope? What combats fear? And how can we go to bed at night not sitting there constantly worrying about what tomorrow will bring? And what is the difference between resilience and endurance? So a little bit about hope. I believe that when we can see a future that looks better, doesn't matter what the dot on the horizon is, we can have optimism. And optimism is just the belief that something could be better. And then we believe it may be better. But when it turns into hope is when we find that path to that destination. So as leaders in an organization, or as leaders that I normally coach, or as leaders of your own business, or the message that you bring to the world, let us help people find the path to that optimistic future, to that place where they can live their best selves. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you something about resilience that can help you get through those days. So a few things, just going to quickly fire the slides up. So when we start thinking about resilience, the problem is that we tend to think about it as endurance. Like it's a race that needs to be endured, or a place that we have to suffer through. And the more we can resist, the more resilience we have. That's not quite true. Resilience is not the ability to endure. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. So do we have moments in our day in which we learn or know how to bounce back? So what I want to ask you is, let me just, I am so sorry about this. I thought this was up on my screen. Here we go. So have all of you guys got mobile phones ready? Or do you have a mobile phone to hand? If you don't, grab it, because we're going to play a little bit. So the session's name was Smelling Like Roses, Smelling Up Roses, which is in Dutch, it's called Rozengeur en Maneschijn. So usually when you tell people you're in love, it's all moonlight and rose and the smell of roses. But we know that in our reality, this is what life looks like. There's no just one emotion. We always have this fear, this anxiety of things that come tomorrow. But what I want you to do is we're going to look at how does this impact you every day. So when you've got your mobile phone ready, switch on the camera, and I want you to scan this code. And then there will be some questions. To be precise, there should be 8 of them. I want you to pick the 3 that impacts you the most. All right? So just have a look at which 3 impacts you the most. Are you able to, or are you struggling to think before you start acting? Are you struggling to keep your feelings in check? So emotional outbursts, or adjusting to the unexpected. So think in a different direction, away from the anchors that you face every day. Do you tend to be forgetful? What happened 30 seconds ago? What happened a minute ago? Do you have questions about your purpose, your identity? Struggle setting goals and then keeping to them, planning and prioritizing things, or starting things, task initiation. Or the last one, keep track of things mentally and physically. You go to pick up the kids and you come back home and you realize you haven't done the shopping, sort of, can you have that overview still? All right. So I'm seeing the answers coming in. Please keep on doing that. And then we've talked a little bit about hope. So now the next thing is when we don't have, if it's not about endurance, but about resilience, how do we create those moments to bounce back? As you can see, there are the results. So there's not a single one there. Actually, there's only one there with setting goals, meeting goals. It's the only one people seem to be doing okay on. On the rest, everybody seems to be struggling. Now, these are our executive functions. So what we're going to talk about is, I'm going to talk to you about the science behind resilience. Now, our executive functions, what we need every day to work, just to do the stuff we need to do. So planning and prioritization, if you can't do that, then what comes first? What comes second? What is left behind? What is not done? All right. And these executive functions sit in our prefrontal cortex. It's the part of the brain that helps us to keep our emotions in check, don't feel things as strongly, help us to set goals and stick to them, planning, prioritization, overview of things, creative thinking, all these things sit in our prefrontal cortex. And yet, when we're under stress and duress, we expect people to still perform at their highest level. Now, the science behind this is that 60 or as little even as 40%, 40 to 60% of your ability to do your job is impacted by stress, because the moment cortisol goes up, the executive functions start falling apart. Now imagine the exponential effect when this happens in a team or in a group of people, where normally one person's creativity would feed into another. Now, what if we reduce everybody's creativity by 40%? The amount of information lost, creativity lost, is exponential. So the first thing we need to do is help people find a spot in which they can be their creative selves, be able to get rid of that cortisol. Now, one of the best ways to get rid of cortisol is to find some oxytocin. Now, to find a bit of oxytocin, we have a few things we can do. One of the things is to get rid of the immediate transition that could happen towards adrenaline. So to give you an example, earlier this year, actually, yeah, it was earlier this year, I was on the metro, and which is underground train here in Amsterdam. And things were quite tense because everybody had to wear masks, and you were fined 150 euros if you didn't wear your mask. And there was a gentleman standing in the corner, and based on his dress and the way he looked, I suspected he was from the Middle East. And I thought, well, he's not wearing a mask. Maybe he doesn't know about this fine. So I walked up to him and I spoke English to him, and I explained that, by the way, if you don't want to get the fine, please wear your mask. His reaction was visceral. okay, and threatening, and he came up to you and he punched towards me. I ducked it. I ducked behind my bicycle, had the bicycle between me and him. And then this really big guy next to me came walking up and was like, I felt like he was 10 meters tall, but I mean, he was just a little bit taller than me. And by adding his weight behind me, this guy backed off. But I was on the way to a really important meeting. And so how do I let go of this? Because now I've hit adrenaline rush. I've gone beyond stress because I was stressed for the meeting already. I'm now at the point where, am I fighting or am I fleeing? And to get off that ledge, I did something which I call HIM, or high intensity interval meditation. It's a meditation technique that I developed. You guys can find it on my YouTube channel, Exponential Leadership, where I explain it in much more detail. But what it is about is, you all heard about mindfulness, and mindfulness is getting back into the moment, which is a great technique. So when we're stressed, we've got a real negative dip, we can use mindfulness to come up back to a neutral. We use savoring, which is a different technique when we're euphoric or when things are happy and we want to hold on to that. All right. But both of those techniques, the research behind it is relatively minimal. When we look at the research on meditation in general, we see that one of the types of meditation that really, really works well is short meditations, so no more than 5 minutes, but 6 to 8 times a day, because it improves the pathways in your prefrontal cortex. And by doing so, it helps you to be more resilient, more resistant, in this case, to those emotions, all right? And helps you to get that overview, the ability to do your tasks, the ability to prioritize, to plan. All those kind of things are strengthened by doing short, sharp meditations. So I developed this one, which is 2 minutes. And my banking clients love it. So before they go into this big meeting where it's going to be really stressful, negotiating things like mergers and acquisitions, I see them all sitting there with the earphones in, mobile phone in front of them, listening to a little gong, just to get for 2 minutes, just to let go of the previous moment. Now, the difference between this and standard meditation is, with standard meditation, you're trying to find a place of calm. With this, we don't. With this, we fill the brain. The brain only has so much processing capacity. We overload it and then let go. And the moment we do that, the distance it has created between the problem we just faced and where we are now seems like a light year. And that allows us to look at the problem we've just faced more objectively, or the stressful situation we've been in more objectively. So how do we do that? Now, a few things. We do a visualization in which I normally tell people, think of it as a golden light. So maybe we can try this. What do you guys think? Shall we try this? All right. So what I want you to do is close your eyes for a second, and I'm going to walk you through this without the sound bit. Okay. You can add the sound bit later yourself. So close your eyes. And what I want you to do is, I want you to just breathe in and breathe out. As you're doing this, I want you to sit up straight. I want you to not pull your shoulders back. I want you to keep your shoulders just in line, keep your spine straight, and tilt your head slightly backwards, because that's what we learn in opera singing. That really opens up the breath. So now I want you to breathe in and out. And the timing is 10 seconds. 5 in, 5 out, 4 in, 6 out. Doesn't matter. Every 10 seconds, we take a breath. So start counting in your mind. 10 seconds, in and out. Remember the chin slightly up. Open the mouth. Free breathing. As you're breathing, I want you to imagine that the way the breath leaves your body is in a golden beam of light. And then the golden beam of light comes back in like an infinity sign, or number 8. And you breathe it in again, and it creates this figure 8 inside you. And then when it leaves, it takes anything that's dark, anything that's black, anything that's negative with it. And then breathe in again and bring in the golden light. And then breathe out again And as you breathe out, you let go of the pain, the frustration, the anger, anything negative. And breathe in again and breathe out. Okay, open your eyes. So there we just focused on the visualization on the breath. To make it more complex and start overloading the brain, we start adding colors. So we make the golden light something like a rainbow. We can envelop ourselves in a cocoon and view the light as bright light moving out, or as dark light moving out, and the brightness coming in and the blackness staying outside. You create all these visualizations, become more and more complex. We're counting, so we're engaging parts of the prefrontal cortex to help us keep track of things. But we're doing this for 2 minutes. So we're breathing in every 10 seconds. So that is 12 times. So we also have to keep track of that counting. And then if you have a mobile phone, which I'm sure all of you have, you put in an earphone and you download a little app. I use Insight's Timer, and you set up a gong. It's these Tibetan singing bowls. The reason I like using them is because the moment you hear the sound go ding, and then it fades away, and you strain to hear the sound. And that is the trick. You need to strain your hearing. So you strain your hearing, you strain your visualization, you strain your ability to keep track of things. And by doing this over and over, you start realizing after a while it becomes almost automatic and easy to do. And then you add complexity. Then you go in, okay, now I'm going to breathe in and out every 9 seconds. How many do I then need to do in 2 minutes? Or, I want to take the gong, instead of setting it for 20 seconds, I'm going to set it for 15. Now I've got to keep track of 3 different counting systems. So you keep on increasing the complexity so that you overload the brain and you can forget about anything that you've just thought about. All right. So a few minutes ago, someone who stepped off the hymn. I explained it in quite some detail on the YouTube channel. And if you guys are ever interested in doing like a guided meditation on that, let me know, because I'm looking for people that will try out stuff with me and tell me what works, how it works for them, and what kind of things can make things better for my clients as well. So the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is gratitude. Now, I grew up in a religious family, and one of the things that we're always told to us is before you ask for anything or say anything, you first have to say what you're thankful for. Something my mum sort of drilled into me is count your blessings, and although I don't adhere to all the religious tenets anymore, I still believe gratitude is one of those things that really make a difference. And strangely enough, it's not just a belief, it's science. So there's been research done specifically on what makes us happier. And there's this institute in the US attached to Penn State University, led by Martin Seligman, which is sort of the father of modern applied positive psychology. And some of the research they've done has looked at how do we change the feelings of groups of people. And so I apply this in teams within the organization. Gratitude is really powerful. I'm going to give you a few ways of doing this. Now, we know the meditations take 2 minutes. If you do 5 of them, that's 10 minutes a day. All right. Not a lot to invest in your mental health. All right. And this one takes 5 minutes. So that's 15 minutes in total. All right. So not a lot, but it can change your life, weirdly enough. So the gratitude exercise goes like this. You write down, can be a journal, can be a mobile phone, whatever you like. I like a journal because it's easy to reflect, to flick back. And you write down every day the one thing that you're most grateful for. Now, some people might start with, I'm grateful the sun's shining today. Now, that's not where you want to end, but you can start there to make it comfortable for you. The trick is never do the same gratitude in the same week. So you're challenged to do 7 different ones. Now, that is the basic exercise. To make it a little bit more complex, if you want to spend another 10 minutes, you can do one You can start splitting them up and saying, what am I grateful for in those that I love, those that I care about, my children, my spouse, my mom, my dad. The next one is, what am I grateful for in what I do, my work? And don't forget the last one. What am I grateful for in myself? And then at the end of the week, write down your summary gratitude. What did you learn this week from your gratitudes that you're most grateful for? Now, this has been proven to work better than antidepressants. Okay, so it was run up against serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and it works. Okay, so my gratitude for today is something I learned in Setswana. Now, for the people that know Setswana, I'm not sure if there should be a, between what looks like a go-go, if there should be a space there. Please rectify my spelling. But you say it as Nakia libucha hohuitsi. Na means me. Kia is preposition. Libucha is thankful for knowing you. And that's what I want to tell you guys today. My gratitude is thank you for being in my life. And thank you for playing such a wonderful role in it and being the support that we all need as speakers. Thank you for listening to me.